Hello everyone, James again. While I'm here and I've got the screencast-o-matic all set up, may as well just have a quick look at the part 2 of TMA3, which is the reflection. Now, this is important for a number of reasons. First of all, hopefully it gets you to think about the way you're doing things. It gets you to think about what you've learned as a whole, and how the way you do things now has changed, hopefully, from the way that you would have done things before. It gets you to think about your learning as well as what you've learned. Um, it's a good opportunity for that. On a more practical level, it's also 20 marks. So that's actually quite a hefty chunk. When you consider the actual essay itself is 100 marks, 20 marks for the reflection, it's quite a good opportunity, a good way to knock your marks up. So if we just look at the reflection, obviously as you're reflecting and thinking about how you approached TMA3 and what you've learned from TMA2 and so on, of course you can use I, that's no problem at all. And we have here in the reflection a number of things that you need to think about. So 500 words, there's no plus or minus 10% on this one, it's 500 words. Now, I know it's tempting, and I don't know why people do it. I don't know if it's because they just can't see the point, or if it's because they don't have time, they focus on the essay too much. But very often people hand in reflections which are 300 words, 350, 400. Um, you have 500 words to play with, use them. If you hand in something that's very under length, you're automatically, when we look at the marking criteria, your mark is going to be low. So yeah, use those words. Hand in something that's 500 words long. But we've got some questions here to help guide your reflection. And actually, I mean, then this is useful for me as well because it's quite good to see what sort of concerns people either have now or have had in the past. It gives me an idea of what kind of things I can put on the forum or sort of specific feedback I can put in your feedback. Um, but yeah, questions that should guide your thing. And as I say, this should be written in full paragraphs. So yeah. So the steps or procedures you followed in writing the essay. So that's essentially the sort of things that covered in the first video. Um, how did you take notes? Did you take notes? Did you create a little table, or did you use flashcards or some other way of taking notes? Um, how did you plan your essay? Did you do, like I used on the video, bullet points, or did you use a mind map or spider diagram? Did you then do a draft? Or did you just start writing? How did you decide to plan your essay? Did you do costs first and benefits, or did you decide to do it by stakeholder? All these different things. How did you map the case and frame the case, and did you use noun groups, and so on and so forth? If you can mention specific units or specific activities or anything in the study materials that you found useful, that's great. Activity 4.6 was very useful because blah, 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 blah. So that's great. How effective were they? What worked well and what didn't work well? So yes, just be honest. There's only me reading this. So yeah, if you did something and it didn't work and it was confusing, then say so. If you did something and it worked brilliantly, great. That's all I want to know here, really. So what worked? Would you do things differently next time? It's very, fairly obvious. What resources did you use? So again, as I say, specific units and activities, books, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to see there. What concepts did you use to frame this essay? So again, it's up to you, but I'd imagine obviously things like costs and benefits of a takeover, the concept of a stakeholder, i.e. people who are affected by it, that kind of thing, I'd have thought. How much did online participation help you? So that's obviously the forum, which always does get a bit quiet around this part of the course, but I think Christmas and New Year probably hasn't helped. And did you go to Anne's tutorial, which I think is I think the video's still up there. I must admit I haven't checked. And if you didn't participate, well, just say I didn't participate, so, there we go. Did you use the essay writing checklist? Was it helpful? Was it not? So obviously that's in the study book, and well worth looking at. I would heartily recommend you look at that. And what were the most important things you learned? So again, hopefully fairly straightforward. Now, if we just look at the guidance notes, full paragraphs, the way you made notes, the sources you used, things that worked, describe the mistakes you made, and so on. So yeah. And in terms of marking, you can see here, if you hand in something, let's have a look, does not reflect on the process. So if I read your reflection, I have no idea what you did. Responds to none of the questions. So if you just have and as has happened in the past, you handed in a reflection of, oh, I was feeling a bit depressed, and yeah, you've got to think about the questions and the way you approach the work. So yeah, and obviously under length is going to be down here somewhere. Responds to only a few of the questions is going to limit you here. None of the questions is going to limit you here. Most of the questions will get you around here. Some references to the techniques and ideas taught in the module and so on. Yeah, most people normally, just from experience, tend to get in this sort of range. So responds reasonably well on the process use. So I have a fairly good idea of what you did. Reasonably well to the questions. So you've done all the questions, you've answered all the questions, but they're okay. Reasonable reference to the steps followed. Good awareness of the intended audience, i.e. me. So obviously it's an academic thing, so it needs to be formal, objective, and so on. To get the good marks here, yeah, reflects very effectively on the process followed. Responds very effectively. So you've answered all the questions and you've done it very effectively. So for each one, I can just sort of go, I can just think, yeah, there's not a lot more I could really need to know about how you did this assignment or what you've learned from doing it. You've really gone into detail, and so on. So as I say, bear this in mind as well. And remember, say if you hand in something that's only 200 words, 300 words, only a few of the questions or most of the questions, you're limiting yourself to, sort of 10, 11 marks really, or under. So yeah, try and do all the questions if you can. Okay, so again, any questions to do with TMA 3, please post them here. Or if you don't like posting on the forum, obviously, drop me an email anytime. Or if you need to talk through it, yeah, just let me know, and hopefully we can arrange a time and we can talk through it then. Okay, so I hope that's useful.